Hello, welcome to the Templar Real Estate Talk Show. My name is Joseph J. Zoppi, a real estate investor, consumer advocate, author, and managing partner of Templar Real Estate Enterprises. You could reach us at templarcashforhouses.com. That's TEMPLAR cashforhouses.com. It's one word. Or call us at 973 240 8593. Again, that's 973 240 8593, and we could answer any questions you may have, or you could also email us from our website with any questions or something you want discussed on this show. For first time listeners, my company is a real estate investment firm. We buy houses for cash, we purchase apartment buildings, we do joint ventures with other real estate investors, we loan money for rehabs and provide transactional and gap funding as well. We work with individuals that want to invest with us in single family houses up to apartment buildings. We do not speculate and we're very protective of our money and our investors' money. I'm not a real estate agent, we're not a brokerage, but I have individuals on staff that are agents that will sell your house through the traditional multiple listing service. This show is going to go over everything there is about real estate and those things that impact real estate. We'll talk about our rehabs, what went well, what did not go well, and what we learned from them. We'll also discuss some of our investments as well. We'll discuss trends in the real estate market. Real estate is one of your biggest investments, so it's important that you know as much as possible about it. I'm going to provide you with my opinion. It's only my opinion. I ask everyone to do lots of research. One of the traditional ways of doing research is get referrals. So if you have a friend or associate that you know and they give you a reference, please ask them lots of questions. Reason is that I always tell you that what one person likes, another person might not like. And if they're your friend, you want to make sure that you ask lots of questions, because if you don't like the individual that does the service for you, you might be a little pissed off at your friend. So I think it's in your best interest and your friend's best interest that you ask lots of questions for that. A couple other things. I'd like to do a shout out to a couple of listeners. Paulette, as you always hear every week, the famous crossing guard from Livingston, as well as Tim from Cedar Grove. In addition, I'd like to do a shout out to Bob as well. Again, we purchase houses for cash. So we buy houses throughout New Jersey. We buy houses in Newark. We buy houses in Brick, New Jersey. We buy houses in Oradell, New Jersey. We buy houses in North Jersey. We buy houses in South Jersey. So we buy them everywhere because people always ask us that question. You know, if you're looking for a cash buyer, please give Templar a call. We'll buy your property. I have a number of calls with individuals right now that had floods in their houses from Hurricane Ida. So please give us a call. It's devastating what has happened to some of these houses. And the rain just came down so fast and within such a short amount of time. It's just unbelievable. It's just, one of my guys that works for me, uh, I guess he lives in a basement apartment in Newark, and it flooded so quickly, it went almost up to the ceiling. He lost everything. So, I have one house where I have a washer and dryer, and I just told him to take it. you know, I don't need it, and it was left by one of our clients, and I was going to basically give it to the Goodwill, but it's the same thing. I'm giving it to him, so just to help him out a little bit. It's just crazy. If you're interested in investing in real estate, please give us a call. Couple things with that. First, you could jump on our website that's set up just for investors, and it's basically just a form that you fill out to schedule a call or to meet with us in our office or a Zoom call. It doesn't matter. It's www.investwithtemplar.com. Again, that's www.investwithtemplar.com, and it's a simple form. It'll take you 2 minutes to fill out, and then we'll contact you. Again, one of the things about real estate and what I like so much about real estate, it's a hard asset. You could see it, you could touch it. When you have other investments, they're always not that tangible, like Bitcoin. But there's other ones like some technology companies, things like that. And you really never know what's going on behind the curtain, as they would say. If it's Amazon, of course, and Procter and Gamble, those are just solid companies. But a lot of people diversify and they invest in other companies. And to really understand the valuation or what it's worth is sometimes extremely difficult. And that's one of the reasons why I like real estate. Like I said, it's tangible. I could see it, I could touch it, and I could value what it's worth. And I could show anyone how to do that. I don't even have to teach them. I could show them. And teaching sounds, like it's a long process. Where I'll just say I could show you how to valuate a single family house. And it's very straightforward. It might not be precise the number that you put together, but it'll be plus or minus whatever 50,000, something like that. Maybe even less. It really depends on the house. But at least you know. So in the event someone comes to you and says, I'm looking for investors and I want to invest in, this house. I want to purchase this house and I need investors. Will you give me the money? At least you could understand what it's really worth. And that's a big thing. And again, I could show this to you. We could set up a meeting, come to my office, and we could go over it. I hate to see people select and pick investments and then you lose money on. That just really gets to me. One example was a company which I've been following in the news for a while now. It's called Theranos, and it was a privately held company. So you have privately and publicly held companies. Publicly is trading on the stock exchange, so on and so forth. Privately is owned by a number of individuals. And it was talked about in everywhere. Forbes, everywhere. Wall Street Journal, everywhere. About this technology company, health technology company that was able to devise a blood test where it only needed a small amount of blood instead of the large tubes that individuals need to take when they're taking blood tests. So it was like a drop of blood. So it was like, wow, this is great. And they made this machine they called the Edison because of that. And it was all fake, basically. It didn't always work. It worked half the time. It was just really just it was just all a sham. And it was founded approximately 2003 by a woman named Elizabeth Holmes. They raised like $700 million from venture capitalists and private investors. And, at the peak in 2013, 2014, the valuation was $10 billion. So this is $10 billion valuation based on a fake device and fake technology and just fake PR and everything fake. And then eventually it came to light that it was all fake. Now, Elizabeth Holmes is on trial for that, and then her boyfriend, husband, or something like that is going to be in trial also in January, I think, on this. So it's such a mess. So you have these smart individuals, venture capitalists, and everything else throwing money at this woman and her company, and it's worth nothing, zero in the end. So, a word to the wise on some of those things. Just because smart people invest in money in different companies, that doesn't mean it's always going to be a winner. And that's why with venture capitalists, they have X percent which fail. So that's not something that is out of the ordinary. Maybe under this circumstance, a little out of the ordinary, but they invest money all the time in companies that don't work out. This was just very, very public and very large. So that's the problem with that. Also, I'm looking for apartment buildings, 100 plus units preferably to invest in. If anyone has those out there, or even like a 50 unit, please give me a call. I'd be interested in purchasing them. Also, mortgage forbearance. I've talked about that for the last few weeks. About right now, they're going to be stopping the mortgage forbearance, and the lending companies are going to start to be able to foreclose on these properties. One of the things I continually say is that when you have put in forbearance, you've basically told the bank, lending institution, I can't afford it. So it's very, very difficult after that to get a refi. It just is. Now you might be able to get a low mod or loan modification, but again, all those fees and everything are put on the back end. So if it was originally a $250,000 loan, it could become a $300,000 loan. Okay, so just remember that. And I always say it, the banks just hammer you with fees. I had an individual call me the other day. He said, Joe, he says, I have a $1.1 million due on a loan from this bank, and my house is only worth about $850,000. So they're underwater, as they say. And I said, well, you got to do a short sale. And he says, yes, I'm trying to do a short sale, but it's taken a really long period of time. It's almost a year. I says, yeah, it takes a really long period of time. And the banks don't want to do it. They want to take your house. It's that simple. He said, Joe, I only really have a $500,000 really from a loan perspective, but I have $600,000 in fees and penalties and everything else. I said, yeah, exactly. Because they want your house, the $850,000 house, which they have probably a $500,000 in on loans plus another interest, maybe, who knows, 550,000, 600,000, we'll say whatever. So they have 600,000 in on it because the fees are, and the penalties they're just fake. In essence, it's not additional costs incurred by the bank. So it's not really an amount that they lost truly. But, they do have loans on that, and, they're paying interest on that money also. So they might be in it for 600,000. So they foreclose and they get the house at 850 and they make 250,000. Simple as that. So the banks aren't going to help you in any way. When you really, really need the bank, that's when you're in trouble. It's when you don't need it. That's when, it's a lot easier. They always say that. Okay, I'm going to close up this session, and we'll get back and I'll update you on a few things that I spoke about last week about one house that I was duking it out with the solar company, as well as a individual who just closed the deal on for his sister-in-law. I talked about it a few weeks ago, but it finally came to fruition. So I'll talk as well about that. In the meantime, you could always call us at 973-240-8593 or templarcashforhouses.com. I'll be right back. Thanks. Hello, welcome back to the Templar Real Estate Talk Show. My name is Joseph J. Zoppi, Managing Partner of Templar Real Estate Enterprises. You could reach us at 973-240-8593 or templarcashforhouses.com. Again, if you're interested in investing in real estate and you want to learn how, we give different sessions on it. Please fill out our form on investwithtemplar.com. Again, that's investwithtemplar.com. And we set up a basic discussion either in our office on a Zoom call, preferably one of those two. Over the phone, it's a little difficult, but we could show you how to invest in single family houses. So in the event that someone comes to you and wants to have you as an investor, you could look at it, you could look at the deal and determine whether it's a good deal or not, relatively speaking. Okay, it's, obviously the individuals that execute on the plan is another thing, but we could look at the numbers and I could show you how to do that. And then you could determine if it's a suitable project for you, depending on the individual, obviously, or not. And we always give that as just, a free course, basically, or a session on investing in single family houses. So please take us up on this offer. I always want to see people do well. I hate when individuals are investing money and then their expectations are shot and they lose money. You could lose money in any type of investment, whether it's stock, Bitcoin, as I always say, or any other type of investment. It really doesn't matter. It's, knowledge is everything. Knowledge is power, as they always say. So last week I spoke to you about this company that I've been going back and forth on. It's a solar power company. I purchased a house that had solar panels on it. It was a lease. Lease was extremely poorly written, and they basically took advantage of these two individuals that were up in years. As a result of it, they were supposed to buy out the lease at the end, but they did not, which I was very happy with, and because one individual had passed away, and it was a widower, and she was working with their grandson. I was talking to him. We were working with also their attorney. We had some challenges with that attorney. It seems like this past few times I've been having some challenges with attorneys this past X amount of months, but we got through a few hiccups, and the one hiccup was the lease. I wasn't going to buy the lease. It was poorly written. It was just horrendous, and I wasn't going to spend $60,000 on that. So I purchased the house. Spoke to the solar power company. I says I want the panels taken off, or I want the lease redone. Went back and forth for months, and they delayed a lot in terms of responses. I was getting frustrated. I told them the deal. Told them I'm rehabbing it and I'm going to be selling it shortly. So I either want a deal or I want the panels off. They still took a long time. They said they would negotiate with the next individual that was going to purchase the house. I wasn't going to do that because it was just not in my best interest, because they've the new buyer, whoever that person may be in the future, might be gun shy with doing any type of deal like that. And the attorney would probably tell them the same thing, which I would agree with. So we're going back and forth, and the solar panel company told me just to sign the lease, then we'll negotiate. You don't do that. I'm not doing that, and you don't should never do that. Never. So they kept saying it was their their solar panels, because I kept talking about removing them. So I knew that was a very big point in their minds, because they were worried I was going to take them off and sell them. And there's a lien on those solar panels, so I can sell it. It's technically against the law, but I could. I wouldn't do that, but I could. And they were worried about that. So I played off that fear from a negotiation perspective, and I told them I'm going to do one of two things. Either we do a lease at this. It was like I put a ridiculously low number on it, like $125 a month, and I could break the lease anytime. It was really just a very tough deal that I presented to them, or have them take off the solar panels. And if they didn't do it within 21 business days, I was going to take them off, and then they were going to have to pay me to get the solar panels back based on a removal cost, a packing cost, and a storage cost. And the storage cost was $200 a day. And I said to them also that within 45 days, I think it was 45 days, if they didn't take back the solar panels, I was going to petition the court to take the lien off so I could get my money back for taking them off. So, as a result of that, they responded, which I knew they would, and they responded quickly, which they never did before. So, they said they're going to take off the solar panels. Now, I gave them two options. I was hoping that we would negotiate a deal where I'd keep the panels on, but it would be a favorable number. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So they'll take them off, which is, I won either way. But I would have liked to have a lease in place at a really good price. And, it's always something in terms of when you're negotiating with an individual, you got to understand their temperament and how much they want to duke it out. And I was expecting that they'd want to duke it out a little bit with the lease. But that one I was wrong on. So they did not. And I don't know if it's because they're from California and they're a little more laid back, which is a possibility. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd negotiate and see if I could get a decent lease out of that, would be myself, if the shoe was on the other foot. And, I was hoping that that would happen. And like I said, I don't know if it's because they were out of California, they weren't in for duking it out. In Northeast here, we're a little more, I don't know what the word is, a little more tough skinned, I think, and we're used to that. And that reminds me of a couple stories. So, in my former days, like it was about 20 years ago, I was on an IT project. I was working 6 days a week up to like 12 o'clock every night. even 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was doing that for 6 months. And after that, we were flying out to a bunch of different cities where we'd have to do these installs and everything like that. And I was tired. I was just burned out, tired. We were flying out of Dallas, Texas. I was sitting next to this Texan, nice guy, real nice guy. And we're talking, and I said, you excited to come out here? He said, yeah, maybe, maybe, maybe. And we land, and we start to disembark, and I'm not really paying attention. Like I said, I was really tired, and I'm ready to get out of my seat and walk into the aisle as we're disembarking, and this woman let me go to, you know, go ahead of her because she was in the seats behind, or pretty far behind, I think. And she expected me to say thank you. And I guess I should have. I'm not sure. Because when you disembark on a plane, people just are disembarking. So she got upset at me that I didn't say thank you. And like I said, I was half tired. I don't even know to this day if I should have. Who knows? Maybe I should have. Who knows? And so she said to me, thank you, which kind of pissed me off. And then I knew it would get to her. I said, oh, you're welcome. And then that pissed her off even more. And she started yelling at me and everything. And I'm like, whatever. And we get down to where we're getting the luggage off the turnstile there. And I'm next to the Texan, and he meets his friends. And all I hear from him is, I want to go home. I don't like this place at all. So, it really depends on, the where in the country you're from. Sometimes, I had another one where I used to work in Manhattan, and we had individuals coming from the California office, and I was down on Broadway, right near Wall Street. They arrived. They weren't in New York for more than an hour. I was ready to go to lunch with them. One person stepped off the curb. He almost got hit by a taxi. Another one's just looking around in amazement and disbelief. And I hear them saying, I want to get out of here. I want to go home. So again, it's more fast paced over here. So there's a lot of different factors. So I don't know if that was the reason or why they wanted just to capitulate, but I would have thought there would be a little bit more of a fight for that lease and see if they could recoup that money. Obviously not, but that's the way it is. Another thing is that I'll talk a little bit about that because my time is winding down, but we closed on a house for an individual, and I spoke previously about it. She was having dementia or getting early signs of it, and her sister and her brother-in-law were trying to manage the estate. And we went under contract, and it took like 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get this contract through. And it never takes that long. It just never does. And our contracts are very simple. It's basically, we're going to buy the house as is, and we're taking all the responsibility in terms of anything that needs to be done beforehand, so on and so forth. But they hired this attorney, which did estates, but they weren't really a real estate attorney. And they said it. And she was horrendous. And it was just a mess. And that's one of the biggest things I always say. There's two types of lawyers, deal makers and deal breakers. And it was very difficult dealing with her. Very difficult. On top of it, I had a new attorney because I use always multiple individuals for different things. So for attorneys, I usually have two or three based on the number of volume that I'm doing, and I don't want to be locked into one person. They get hit by a car or something happens, and then I got to scramble to move all my business to another attorney. So I like to spread the wealth a little bit. So I usually have two or three. I had one that he was retiring, so I was looking for another attorney. She came to me and she said, Joe, I'd love to work with you. And it's just been very difficult. So right now I'm closing out on our time, and I'll talk more next week about some of the challenges I had with two attorneys, one on my team and one on the other team. So we'll close it out at that. Again, call us at 973-240-8593 or templarcashforhouses.com. If you need to sell your house fast for cash, please give us a call. Again, take care, everyone. God bless. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye.